I was thinking about all these cool shopping experiences and about my childhood growing up in Syracuse, New York, where it was very cold and very boring. And I spent all weekend at the mall every weekend and became kind of an expert shopper at an early age and have always loved to shop. And I think it's interesting to sort of see the landscape of how it's changing. And I'm kind of start my presentation with a little bit of some of the highlights that I have seen. I was at Nordstrom from 2000 to 2005, helping them build and grow e-commerce. And then I was at Urban Outfitters and then at Sephora for almost 8 years, where we did a lot of cool things digitally over that time period as technology emerged and had sort of new potential. I joined Stitch Fix about 6 months ago, and it's sort of given me a whole new lens on the retail landscape. Okay, so I thought I'd sort of pull out some of my favorite examples. I think Sephora has been a great example of curation and sort of having this amazing assortment brought together with storytelling behind it. I always look at Selfridges, but there are lots of great examples of sort of that entertainment and sort of a new reason to go get out of bed and go to this mall. I think the advent of payment and making it easier, whether it's online or in store, is a complete no-brainer, and every retailer should be making sure they have it. And online shopping has gotten so much better over the years, but there's, I would argue, still a long way to go. And finally, sort of the start of, I would say, personalized marketing has occurred. So all of these examples are great for people who love to shop and who are experiencing sort of the benefits of all this innovation happening in the shopping environment. The thing that's interesting is they all work off the premise that consumers like to shop. It's how they choose to spend their time. They're good at it. And so enter Stitch Fix, which is a concept that began 4 years ago, started by a woman named Katrina Lake. And the premise was there are probably people out there better at shopping, can save me time. And so Stitch Fix basically not only saves you time and shops for you, but it also gets better over time as it gets to know you. I'm going to walk you through how it works. There's a client, and she comes online, she fills out a profile, and she tells us about her style preferences along with her fit and her budget preferences. Then she chooses a date that she wants to receive a fix, and she goes into a queue. The stylist basically pulls up the client and has all of this information, and on our proprietary platform, we have 2,000 stylists today, and they work remotely, but they're actually employees of our company. And they pull up the client's information. The client has already been scored next to all the product in our inventory, which is a combination of branded product that we buy directly from brands along with our own exclusive product. And so the order is placed, and the machine sort of does the thinking to process the information. And then the stylist gets this and picks 5 items, clothing and accessories, that are for this client based on a combination of the algorithm and the human judgment element. And a lot of times we get information from clients specifically that month or whatever time period they're ordering of what they're looking for. The box is shipped to the client's home, and she gets to try it on in the comfort of her own home with her family members weighing in if they want, sometimes with her 5,000 blog followers. And then she keeps what she wants and loves, and she's only charged for that, and then the rest she sends back to us in a sort of addressed envelope that makes it super easy. She can put it in the USPS post box. Done. Then what happens is, as she's checking out and telling us what she's keeping, she gives us feedback. So she tells us what she likes, and she tells us what she doesn't like. And that feedback both feeds the algorithm as well as gives information to the stylist so that next time she's styling her, she's getting smarter about how to serve that client. And the client experience has been interesting because, as we see from testimonials, there's a couple of elements that are really interesting. One is consumers think this service is really amazing, and they want to share it with their friends. So the business has grown almost entirely virally through people telling their friends about it and selling them on the service. The second thing is that they realize that sort of there's this unlock, and they look better than they've ever looked before because they never felt great about sort of finding things, or because they get in the rut and we buy the same things for ourselves every time we go shopping. And the experience has been a real unlock from kind of this service level. What's interesting is that we, unlike most retailers, have about 50 data scientists on staff. And so that's a real luxury as someone who comes from retail and did not have that kind of resource in the past. And this team is not only matching consumers to product, but also we're using this capability to do all sorts of interesting things, matching consumers to stylists and figuring out what that right matchup is, helping us figure out the sort of different LTVs of future potential customers and where to find them, helping us figure out where to put our next warehouse. So it's a real asset that we use. What's interesting is that because of the way our business works, every single box that is packed is hand-selected items for the client. And when you think about kind of what's happening in the world of personalization, and it's something I've been thinking about for a very long time, no one is doing it holistically at scale. And so because the retail world doesn't work this way so much, we often look to other technology companies that have sort of built in and are based on this premise of using data, both big and small, to service the client. And so we did a study. Our chief algorithms officer looked at other companies. 35% of Amazon.com sales are driven off of recommendations. Interestingly, about 50% of connections on LinkedIn are driven off of personal recommendations. Netflix, which is where our chief algorithm officer came from, and he helped develop the algorithm there, has about 75% of their watches derived from the algorithm around recommendations. And at Stitch Fix, because every single product is hand-chosen by a stylist, 100% of the recommendations are actually done 100% of the items chosen and sold are done through recommendations. And what's interesting is that when we look at what's happened, this is really taking a service that used to be available to the people who had the time and the wealth to get a personal stylist and really democratized it, as the point in the study says, and allows this ability to scale this level of service so that actually many, many more people at a much broader income level are available to get it. And what we've seen is that about over 80% of our clients come back within 90 days for their second fix. So they're liking the service. It's definitely something new and different that they're adjusting to. But what we also see is that when a client stays with us, we end up about a third of our clients are spending over 50% of their clothing wallet share with Stitch Fix, which is really unusual because, it's, as you all know, the apparel market is very, very broad. There's a million places to get things. And so what we're finding is that we're actually changing the way that the woman who is our client is shopping. And I think I will leave you on the point that, you know, there's a lot of radical change happening, and there's often the question of how much can you change consumer behavior. And I was using Lux Valet last night and thinking about the fact that this is a new service that didn't exist a year ago, and now it's my go-to for parking whenever I have to start out in one part of the city and end up in another. And we have seen the same thing, that there is a real willingness to drastically change the way you behave, whether it's the way you shop, or the way you park, or the way you take a taxi, or the many other things, if it's simple, it's clear, and it works. And so it's been really exciting to see the rise of this, and I look forward to chatting with you during the break, but thank you.